Hi everyone, today I'm talking about Forum Trajanum, which is a 2 to 4 player board game designed by Stefan Feld and published by Stronghold Game. This one takes around 90 minutes to play and came out in 2018. Now if you're a fan of the channel, you'll probably know that Stefan Feld is one of my favourite designers ever. I'm definitely the designer who I own the most games of. But Forum Trajanum, despite only being a couple years old, didn't really hit the heights that a lot of other Stefan Feld games did. And I suppose this video will maybe give you an idea why that should or should not be the case. So there's quite a lot of components in this game. You've got this main player board here. And I should say this is what the game is going to look like towards the end of the game and not at the start. A lot of the actions have already been taken here. One of the main parts of getting the getting victory points, which is naturally your objective in this style of game, is the forum here, where you're trying to line up as many of your little tokens here as you can to get victory points by surrounding these eagles and again trying to connect them. You've got these different tracks around the outside which can give you bonuses when you build buildings, which we'll cover shortly. You've also got these round by round objectives as well, which again are going to correlate to your individual player boards that look like this. They're quite large, and initially they are going to purely be made up of these placements of these little I suppose citizen tiles. They're going to be filling every one of these squares on this grid. And the gameplay is quite unusual. Normally you'd think Stefan Feld games are very mechanical, and I think this is probably the strongest example of that out of any Feld game I've played before. So how is the game going to play out? So first off, the main kind of part of the game is going to be drawing 2 of these cards, and of course there's going to be 3 rounds here, but this is purely the last round. And as you can see, these cards have 2 different individual symbols on them. So this one here has this Pantheon symbol, and this one here has this horse and chariot symbol. And what you're going to do is you're going to look on your player board like so for those matching symbols, and then you are going to take one of these tokens from that matching row or column. So, if this Pantheon was, well, I've got none here, but with this chariot one, I could, for example, choose this one. And, let's just say for example's sake, I chose this one as well. You can always use one of these white workers to ignore the restriction of the symbol. And then what you're going to do is you're going to pick one of these 2 to keep, and you're going to pass the other one on to the player on your left. And the other people are going to be doing the same, so you're going to end up with 2 tiles. And out of the 2 tiles you're left with, you're going to choose one of them, and you're going to discard the other. Now, they are going to give you lots of different things, as you can see here, different worker types, these builders, these assistants. You can give you coins. They can let you move this little track along the top here, which I'll explain the relevance of later. But yeah, you've got all these different worker types which allow you to do different things and let you build different things. So I mentioned what these white ones did earlier. They can let you ignore the restriction of the card, but they also let you, or by cashing in 2, they let you keep both of your tokens. You've got all the workers of the different colours which let you build different buildings. You've got the assistants here which let you basically change the colour of one worker to another. And you've got the grey builders which are good for building the grey buildings, because as you can see, you've got 4 different colours of buildings here. And you've got the grey buildings with different symbols on. And you've also got these double tiles here which you can build things a lot quicker. But of course you're going to have to still pay the resources by matching the correlating builder. And the idea is you're going to be building them onto your board, trying to get different objectives. So first off, you've got the coloured buildings, and the coloured buildings are important because when you place those, you are going to place one of your little tokens onto the main forum of a matching colour. So if I built a red building, as I have here, I can place one here. And the idea is that we are trying to get opposite these eagle tokens, because if you get an orthogonal position, then you're going to get a point at the end of the round. But also, depending on your largest chain of kind of tokens, you are going to look at your little track here and have a look where they are. So if I had a chain of 8 to 9 people, then I'm going to get 8 points at the end of the round. And I like how this works, and you can kind of shimmy it along and increase the points you're going to get. The other colours, for example, the grey buildings are not only important for getting instant bonuses, because all these relate to a different track. So if you get one of these scroll ones, you're going to go up the track and get these different bonuses as you go. Same correlates to the kind of law one, and this one here as well. But the ones with these kind of columns on, they give you points based on the current round. So if you build them on the first round, you are going to get 3 points. Second round, you're going to get 2 points. And the final round, you're only going to get 1 point for whenever you build those. But that also is important for these corner tiles as well, because whenever you choose one of these, by revealing the construction site below it, then at the end of that round, you're going to score a number of points equal to the round based on the column there for each of the matching colours you have. So, in this example, I'd only score 1 point for one blue building, but you can probably imagine how you can rack up points that way if you play appropriately. Additionally, there is some quite importance of these grey buildings, because if you have a different symbol, out of the 4 different symbols, you are going to look at the correlating row here and score points accordingly. So, for example, I've got 2 different types here. And I've got one of these citizen tokens, which means I'm going to score 2 times 2, because I've got 2 different building types in this second column. Then I am going to score 4 points at the end of the round. And these also give you additional bonuses if you were to select them, and let you kind of interchange workers, get double bonuses by completing these forum sections, and doing different things as well. So they're quite nice, give you powers, and also give you bigger multipliers when it comes to scoring. So doing that is quite important, but keeping those on your board is not the easiest thing to do, because whenever it comes to the end of the round, you're going to have to pay a coin for each one of those to keep them active. You're also going to have to bear in mind these Trajan objectives, because at the end of each round, you're going to be assessed on the criteria on these cards. So, for example, in the first round, if you have a coloured building in between 2 grey buildings, then you are going to score a number of points equal to where your slider is, but where your Trajan head is here. So you guys are going to be in this 3 bracket, in this 5 bracket, or in this 7 bracket. These cards also have 2 types of goals to go for, not only the actual spatial puzzle aspect, but also this kind of collection bonus. So if you have a spare white worker and a spare coin in your kitty, then you're going to score those points again. And you can do these multiple times, so that's something to work towards. This one here, as you can see, you have to have 4 coloured, or any 4 buildings in a square, like I've done here, for example. And this one here, just have 3 different grey buildings in a column, and again have these collection bonuses. So these are constantly you're working towards these while still trying to get the different grey buildings in these different rows to get bonuses as well, and of course building coloured buildings to fill up the forum, and of course climb these tracks as well. So there's quite a lot of things you have to consider when you build anything and when you take any actions, and also always bearing in mind that you are restricted to the row and column that you're going to actually take the tile from in the first place. So that's going to be pretty much how the game is going to play out. So yeah, it's a very mechanical game, as you can probably tell, but let's talk about how I feel about the game itself. So first off, decision-wise, there is quite a lot to consider here, but while still being somewhat tunnel visioned in what you can do, because of course you are always subject to the card draws here about which envoys that you can reveal in the first place, and obviously you are trying to work out which areas you're going to clear so you can build into them in order to get the most points as you can. But that is not an easy decision, because there are so many things pulling you in different directions. You've got to know when you are going to use these white workers to ignore that rule, but bearing in mind that some of these Trajan cards want the white workers left in your supply in order to get those points. Also, you're always trying to move your slider across to get more benefits by adding all your envoys together. And quite an interesting rule here as well is that you can't actually start a new coloured region until the current one is complete. So that can be something to consider, and you've got to be careful at which opportunities you leave your opponents when it comes to finishing one of these regions, because if they do, then they are going to get one of these bonuses, which are not insignificant. So that's also something to bear in mind, and you've got to consider about what opportunities you are leaving your opponents. So there's quite a lot here to consider, and a few plates to spin in order to be as optimal as you can in terms of getting points. You want to be building these columns as quickly as you can, because if you do, then you're going to be getting 3 points per one you make. And also these cranes as well. And if you go top heavy on investing in a certain coloured building and then trigger that crane. And then again, if you do that early, then you can be getting a lot of points that way, because you're going to be getting 3 points rather than the 1 if you were to do it in the final round. But in order to do that, you're going to have to neglect something else. So that really is an optimization puzzle here. In terms of balance, I think all the different routes you can go are pretty well considered, and I don't think there's going to be a runaway method to go down. I took a very balanced approach. You've got to consider the powers you want to invest in the first place, because you've got some pretty good ones here. For example, this one here lets you score when you're in the corner of the eagle tiles rather than just orthogonally. This one here, when you take one of these completion bonuses, you take another one. This one slides your track or flips your track over, so you're getting better bonuses. And also when you upgrade it, you're going to these fir trees. So again, there's a nice little player powers here that you can invest in and make use of. But you have to bear in mind that you're going to have to pay for them when it comes to the scoring phase. Otherwise, they're not going to be worth anything. So I really do quite like that. And there is a nice amount of resource management and just weighing up what you want to do and what kind of resources you want to keep back and what you're going to use them for. Also, the economy of getting these workers isn't the easiest, because of course you are again subject to these tiles that you're going to be drawing each round. Do I want the grey worker and the blue worker? Do I want the yellow worker and the red worker? And bearing in mind as well that the other token is going to go to your opponent, which might be what they want. So yeah, lots of decisions here, lots of options, and it all comes together in a really nicely balanced way. Mechanically, there is, Stefan Feld is known for his mechanically sound games. And I know he gets a lot of criticism for being so unthematic and basically just being a bunch of mechanisms smashed together to make a game. And I think that's probably the reason why a lot of people don't like Stefan Feld games. I know he's got a huge fan base, such as myself. And I think this is going to be a strong example that's never going to change anyone's mind on Stefan Feld. It's going to, in fact, probably reinforce their opinion if they don't like him, because this is pretty much everything that somebody who would criticise Feld would look as a kind of an example of him doing what he does. But it does come together quite well. I do quite like this option of, it's almost like a draft, picking these tiles, passing them on, choosing which ones you're going to use. So there is some, mechanically it does work nicely. There's the traditional tracks here. Of course, you've got the objectives as well. So a lot of pretty standard Euro stuff here, but with some twists as well, how this forum works. And I suppose mainly your tile placement and the way you're going to use your individual player boards has a slightly different feel to it than a lot of other tile placement games. Time investment, the game takes an hour and a half to play, which is about right for a game like this. Certainly didn't outstay its welcome, and only 3 rounds with 4 turns each, I suppose, or 4 turns. So it certainly doesn't take too long. It doesn't feel like it's dragging its feet. It's not a game that outstayed its welcome, at least in my eyes. Uptime as well is pretty good because a lot of it is simultaneous. You're picking your tiles at the same time. You can do a lot of things such as taking your resources from the tiles you've selected at the same time, and it's just a matter of building really. But yeah, there's not much scope for losing interest when it is another player's turn, because the actual turns themselves are quite rapid. Interaction, it's not a hugely interactive game. The only the main part of the game or aspect of the game that is the most interactive is this forum, because you do want to be getting in these orthogonal spaces. You do want to be closing the regions off to get these bonuses here. And of course you can try and cut people off to try and stop them getting the bigger clusters of their envoys to get bigger bonuses here. So there's a bit of interaction, and it's not quite passive. It is somewhat direct, but in a reined back way. It's not really in your face, and you're not smashing the work of other players. It's pretty straightforward in that respect. In terms of interaction, it's loose, but there is a little bit. Aesthetically, I like the way the game looks. It's got a traditional Euro feel to it. Certainly doesn't try too hard in what it's trying to be. The board looks nice. I do like this look. It's got a nice traditional Euro feel. It just feels right for the game. Components as well. really good quality. You've got all the meeples themselves are fantastic, nice, thick, chunky pieces. All the cardboard stock from the buildings and stuff, perfectly good quality. So yeah, no complaints whatsoever with the production values or the way this game looks. So yeah, thumbs up in that regard. Theme, it's a Stefan Feld game. It's a very loose skin on a game, but I think his games tend to marry this Romanesque feel quite well. And setup and teardown time. To be honest, the setup time is one of the biggest drawbacks, I think, for this game. There is a lot of separate pieces, as you can probably see here. You've got to set up the player boards, all with a token each. You've got to set up all these buildings here, and these are double-sided, so you're flipping half of them to be this side, you're flipping half there. There's just lots of different cards and things. And it's a little bit fiddly. It takes a bit longer than your average game to set up, which was a little bit of a bugbear. And of course, you're putting them back in the bags and stuff as well. It's going to be a bit tedious. Progression is pretty good as you're opening more spaces on your board by revealing those envoys. And of course, you're trying to add link up all your forum envoys together. So that does have a nice forward momentum as you're building towards these objectives as well. And of course, bearing in mind the depleting score, the points you're going to get for your building. So it does have a forward motion to it, and it does change as the game develops, which is perfectly fine. Scalability as well, I don't really see an issue whatever player count this is going to be at. The forum is going to be extended to to be bigger, depending on that player count to make a more tighter or more open game. So yeah, no complaints at all with scalability. I think it's going to be absolutely fine at any player count. So yeah, overall, I think this is a solid design. As I said, probably even more mechanical than other Feld games, which is saying something. I enjoyed it. Do I think it's one of the best Feld games? Absolutely not. I can see why this didn't land with a lot of people. I know some people speak about it highly. I think it's good. I will say that. Certainly not in the topper tier Feld games, and probably not even in that middle tier of Feld games. I put this probably about the same enjoyment of a game like Carpe Diem, which ironically came out at exactly the same time, but has a lot lighter feel to it than this one. I think people are going to have a bit of a hurdle to overcome how dry this game is. And you know what? I think a lot of Feld fans will overcome that and not really think of that as an issue. But this isn't a game that you're going to want to introduce to players who aren't sold on the whole Euro genre of games. This is only going to kind of push them away, I think. Whereas if it does appeal to you, I would recommend checking it out because it does have some pretty neat ideas, but some pretty unnatural and almost jarring mechanisms that are just a bunch of things cobbled together. But certainly, I don't mean that negatively. It just it doesn't have the kind of flow and natural kind of rhythm by reading the rules themselves. Once you play it, it's absolutely fine. It does work pretty nicely. But yeah, it's certainly not up there with his best of games. There's a lot of things I do like about this one. I really love this track here, and I'd love to see this used in another game, where you're working towards kind of linking things together, and wherever you are, you're going to get points, and that's kind of a sliding scale. I really do love that idea, and I'd like to see that used again. I'm certainly not going to speak negatively of this game. Saying it's a lower tier Feld game is still high praise because I've never played a Feld game I haven't enjoyed. But I can see why this didn't take off the way a lot of other games or his games did. It just doesn't have while it's mechanically sound, it just didn't have that sprinkle of magic that a lot of his other games do, at least for me. So I don't think this is going to be a keeper for me, but I am glad I played it. It was fun, and it's a solid design in itself. So that concludes my thoughts on Forum Trajanum. If you have enjoyed the review, please hit like and subscribe to my channel and check out my other videos too. For everyone else, I'll see you next time on Chairman of the Board. Bye.